with a number of AWS partners today, really focused around understanding kind of what the next level of stack to build on is. And part of those components are data storage and AI, message buses, and a number of other components. But today I've got the pleasure to talk to Jaikumar. Just to kind of open it up for our audience, like, what's Anyscale's kind of primary value proposition?
So Anyscale builds up this AI compute engine, as what we call it. So when you are taking an ML problem and you are trying to solve it and take that solution to production, you run into all these challenges on first during development, for then taking it to production and keeping it running. Right. So Ray, a popular open source software, is used by lots of companies. So it's just for scaling machine learning workloads, and Anyscale makes it easier to operate Ray. So if you are taking an ML solution onto production, whether it's for data processing, whether it's for serving, whether it's for training, whether it's for LLM inference, then Anyscale is very well suited for that. So it takes away all the headache of scaling, managing all the clusters, etc.
And so what kinds of use cases do you see most common, as we think about the kinds of innovators or entrepreneurs that actually might want to consider your solution, maybe not out the gate, but eventually?
Yeah, so I think one of the use cases that is becoming a lot more common these days is called multimodal data. So previously data was sitting in tables and it was SQL based,
Right.
and now what's happening with audio, video, including this conversation, chatbots, etc. So the modalities of the data has actually gone up a lot. And so, and you used to only deal with CPUs. Now you have to deal with CPUs and GPUs. So multimodal data processing is a big use case where we are seeing the power of Ray and power of Anyscale. There are a lot of companies and users very happy and satisfied in using Anyscale and Ray for that. But because Ray is a generic purpose platform, you can also use it for training your models. You can use it for serving your models. You can do it for running hundreds of Python jobs, for example. But multimodal data is something like, given it's a growing market, is where we are seeing a lot of traction.
Got it. So it sounds like if I wanted to create kind of a novel model, right, something unique to the data set I have, Ray is a good fit, and Anyscale is a great way to run that.
Exactly.
Got it. If I'm just creating a sort of I'll call garden variety agentic workflow application that could use, say, an LLM like a Nova or something.
Yeah.
How does Anyscale do you fit in that?
Yeah, we totally do.
chain?
So initially it was like all about a simple model, single model running on a machine, and then LLMs came about and the models were bigger and they ran on multiple machines. Agentic systems take it to the next level, where you have like something called the compound AI systems. What it means is that you are actually having multiple models that you have to actually connect together. You may have a RAG system, and then you'll have to decide, hey, how do I rank the results coming out of the RAG? You have to figure out your prompts. How do I do, because prompts are now used kind of a programming interface. How do I actually break this sentence into tokens? How do I chunkify it? So there are a lot more challenging concepts that are there in agents. And Ray helps you get over that complexity by using the compute much more easily and providing easy to use libraries so that you can actually build agents on top of it.
Got it. So, it sounds like, if I've got a lot of complex data, unstructured data especially, this is a good use case for.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if I'm a sort of media company or social media company that has just, again, a lot of content that a custom ML model would serve for, that's a good fit.
Exactly, yes. Okay. And so we are agnostic about the type of model. Like you can build your own model, you can bring another open source model. We manage more of the compute, underlying compute much more efficiently and make it easy for you.
Got it. All right. You mentioned efficiency there, right? There's a couple angles of efficiency that, as a solutions architect and serial entrepreneur myself, like I'm always looking for. One is efficiency in time to value, time to market, right? And then the other is obviously the cost and cloud economics behind the scenes. Can you speak to the former one? Like, how does Anyscale help me kind of get to shorten that time to value versus, say, doing things on my own or using even more primitive services on the bare cloud?
Yeah, so I think there are three aspects to it. One is time to value comes with like developer velocity. How quickly can you take your model or use case into production and provide business value, right? So on the Anyscale side, we provide this feature called workspaces, which allows you to efficiently manage the clusters without having to deal with the nitty-gritty details of the cluster. So for example, we have something called auto-select worker nodes as a feature. What it means is that, hey, don't worry about all these worker nodes. We will figure out the right instance for you. You just code using whatever IDE that you actually like, right? And there's also the second part is observability and debugging. So we have an enhanced observability and debugging of your cluster, when it auto scales, when it doesn't auto scale, and what happens with your workload, all of that in a single pane, which our users are finding it really, really useful. So developer velocity and time to value increases. So you can go from one node where you're developing it to multiple nodes at a click of a button without having to actually worry about it. Right?
And I don't have to like get into the nuance of all the different AWS instance types.
Exactly. Yes.
Because your software figures out which is the most appropriate.
Yes. And but at the same time, if someone wants, hey, I really want to do it, you can do it. But at the same time, you can also hide it away so that you don't have to worry about it.
Got it.
Yeah.
Does your software care what chips under the hood? Can it be Trainium or AWS chips or NVIDIA chips? Or?
Yeah, so our software, because it's generic purpose, works with different chips. In fact, we work with AWS, who have contributed their offerings to make it work well with Ray on Trainium and Inferentia, etc., similar to other GPUs, things like that. So the software is agnostic but it's accelerator native. So for both CPUs, GPUs, TPUs, etc., and different vendors all work with Ray to make it work well on their systems.
Got it. So, and then the second part of the question around cost efficiencies.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's probably no benchmark. Our average cost depends on your workload, right?
Yeah.
But I guess at what point in the maturity of my company, we're often talking to a lot of startups here.
Yep.
Should I be considering Anyscale from just maybe even POC and then production?
Yeah, I would actually say from day one. So there are two types of cost efficiency that comes in. One is just the cloud cost, right? Hey, how much time it's taking. And so because Ray is this distributed layer which allows you to distribute all the processing to various machines and make sure your CPU, GPU utilization is high, right? And the second thing is just how long, as a result, suppose you have a job and you're processing 1 gig of data, and if it takes 2 hours for you to do it, Ray can make it much, much more faster. Right. We have had use cases where, for example, drug discovery startups, when they run all these protein model synthesis, their jobs went from days, and they were able to do the same job in hours, for example. And so this is just a startup, and you can actually do this with, again, few clicks just on day one itself. Then the second part of it comes at when you have scale, when you've taken it to production, and the cost efficiency comes in where we have various features that we have done, and especially on the Anyscale side, we call it Ray Turbo. For example, now for batch processing of data, we have smartness around using, say, spot instances much more, and it's integrated because we can do the software and the hardware together, right? And we can elastic training, for example. We can make sure your serving QPS is higher. So the cost also comes as part of that.
Got it. So how do I spin that up? I assuming I already have an AWS account and have other workloads there.
Yeah.
How does your service integrate?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have two models. One is a classic control plane data plane model. Our control plane actually runs on AWS, and our data plane will run in your compute.
Okay.
So all you have to do is give the appropriate AWS permissions with the IAM roles, etc. You don't have to move your workloads, and it just works.
Everything. Okay.
And it just works, right? And suppose we also have another. If you're if your deployment model is like, hey, I don't have this data plane, then we also have a hosted serverless kind of model where people can try it out, and that also works, right? Depends upon your preference with security, where you want the data to live, etc.
Got it. So you touched on an interesting aspect here, and that is software as a service, right? And you just described kind of a couple of models of that. But so you kind of hear the buzz in the media from very senior leaders and other companies talking about SaaS is dead. What's your opinion there on that?
So I think I kind of agree from a tech stack perspective. So when people say, hey, traditional SaaS is dead. So traditional SaaS, the way it was built was there's a database with some CRUD operations, there's business logic and a UI. I do believe that model is going to get outdated. So the SaaS companies have to adapt, right? Some of this initially starts with building an agent where people can talk and say, hey, book me a flight kind of stuff, right? Customer chatbots have really existed, but as we all know, they never really worked well, right? And LLMs solve for that. And then there is the second aspect of it is where in an agentic world, you do not want, say, suppose you're making a trip, right? You don't want to go to a separate site to book a hotel and to a plane, etc. We do it today, right? And in an agentic world, there's an opportunity, and there will be agents which will like kind of take care of that for you. And so you have these things, say for example, the MCP servers or A2A protocols that each one of the SaaS websites might have to expose to a particular agent. There is a challenge though for the SaaS companies, and I think that's the industry has to figure that out, is they may lose that relationship with the user. If it is some other agent that's just talking to them, they have lost that relationship with the user, right? But it's not new. If you think about Expedia or Kayak, they were aggregators of airlines, and they continue to exist, and airlines also continue to exist. I do believe that UI and interface, etc., will completely change. Websites will completely change, and it'll be a fascinating next 5 years to see how that actually all evolves.
Exactly. So, I see SaaS is still persisting, but just evolving how we see it, right? Because it's still software-derived value being delivered over the wire, right? It's just the things that are delivering it may not be a UI anymore, it may be an agent.
Yes.
And to your point, a SaaS solution may not be one company. Maybe a collaboration of interests.
Yes.
And I see even the business models have to change around that, around maybe even some kind of ad hoc agreements protocol that happens so that agents can actually do their thing.
That's true.
And everybody benefits.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
Like
That's
that,
true.
I think that really would be a breakthrough in the business model for SaaS. Awesome. Well, do you have any kind of final thoughts on if I'm very SaaS oriented. I run the SaaS factory here at AWS, and I give a lot of guidance to companies that are that I would say I think they're building SaaS, but if I were to help change their sort of frame that they kind of present themselves as, what would you tell them?
Honestly, at the end of the day, it's about knowing who your user is and what is the value you are going to provide.
Right.
Sometimes we kind of chase the technology trends and
thing.
forget about that user, right? I think I would still say it's like know who your user is and do what works best for them. And at the same time, on the technology side, you have to be aware of what changes are actually happening and how it impacts your user, how it impacts your industry. Not every industry, not every user will be agent driven. Right? There will be some use cases for which the current model works, and they just have to get better at it, right? So that's what I would say, that I'm not a person who likes to give like a generic thing, oh, everyone should use agents, right? So it all depends on the startup, knowing the user, what works for them, talk to your users. And now with tools like Cursor, Codium, all these things, building a mock-up has become so easy, right? So if you think there's something with agents, but you really don't know, you can build it in 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and go test it out with the users, right? And do some market research to understand what is there. But at the same time, sometimes there's intuition and some gut feeling, and this is where the founder intuition matters, right? Especially in this, like, hey, I get it, all this, but this is my intuition, I believe, and the companies are made based on that intuition or die based on the intuition, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Well, I think that's some sage wisdom to leave with everybody here. So I want to thank everybody for watching here. This is the AWS event that brings together a number of our very leading edge open source and managed services for building open AI SaaS solutions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.